Ever heard of a war where rain was actually used as a weapon?
Rain as well.
Yeah, you heard that right.
Hmm.
We're going to dive into a real operation from the Vietnam War where the U.S. government actually tried to do that.
Wow, that sounds like something out of a movie.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is real.
Right.
It's called Operation Popeye.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Have you?
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
So we're going to look at declassified documents and news articles to understand how this all worked.
So we're going deep.
We're going deep.
Yeah.
Why was this kept secret? How did they even pull it off?
All great questions.
What are the implications for trying to control something as powerful as the weather? I mean,
it's a huge...
it's mind-boggling.
It's mind-boggling, yeah.
So this isn't just a history lesson. It's about understanding what could happen if we mess around with the weather.
You know, it's more relevant today than you might think.
Yeah. Okay, so let's set the scene. Vietnam War, 1967 to 1972. The U.S. military was facing a lot of challenges because of the Viet Cong's guerrilla tactics.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You've got thick jungles, hidden supply lines, surprise attacks.
Yeah.
The U.S. really couldn't use those traditional warfare strategies.
It was a different kind of war.
A whole different ballgame.
Right. And the weather played a huge role, too.
Oh, absolutely. The monsoon season in Vietnam, it created these incredibly difficult conditions.
Like really muddy.
Oh, incredibly muddy, yeah.
Yeah.
And, the U.S. forces, they weren't used to that.
Right.
But the Viet Cong, they were in their element.
So that's where Operation Popeye comes in.
Yeah.
U.S. is looking for an edge, and they start thinking, what if we could use the weather to our advantage?
It's a crazy idea, but that's what they tried to do with Operation Popeye. Extend the monsoon season.
Really bog things down.
Yeah, disrupt those Viet Cong supply lines, make it harder for them to move around.
I mean, it's fascinating how they actually try to manipulate the weather. Like, we hear about cloud seeding today.
Right.
But usually it's like, to help with droughts.
Yeah.
Not for war.
Not for war, but actually the idea of using weather in warfare, it wasn't completely new.
Really?
Yeah, military strategists going way back, like mid-1800s, noticed a correlation between heavy artillery fire and then more rainfall.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's actually a book about this by Edward Powers called War and Weather.
Wow, so there was a historical precedent.
Yeah.
But Operation Popeye was taking this to a whole new level.
It really was.
They were deliberately manipulating the weather to achieve a specific military goal.
Exactly.
And they kept it all secret.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. Shrouded in secrecy. Tested under President Johnson.
Wow.
Continued under President Nixon. Public didn't know. Congress didn't know.
That's kind of unsettling.
It is.
But how did they actually do it? How do you make it rain?
Well, it all starts with a bit of serendipity, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Back in 1946, this scientist named Vincent Schaefer, he discovers that if you introduce dry ice into a supercooled cloud, it can make ice crystals.
Okay.
And that leads to precipitation.
So they're like creating rain on demand.
You could say that.
Wow.
Now, Operation Popeye, they didn't use dry ice.
Okay.
They used silver iodide and lead iodide, dispersed from planes, flying right into those storm clouds over Vietnam.
So they were trying to make the storms last longer.
Exactly.
And just like turn that whole terrain into a mud pit for the Viet Cong?
That was the goal.
Did it work?
Well, that's the thing. Whether it actually did what they wanted it to do, still debated. Even the declassified reports, they say it's really hard to measure the effectiveness.
Yeah, you can't exactly label the raindrops.
No, you can't.
And say, okay, this one came from the cloud seeding, this one's natural.
Nope. But the operation itself, it really raises questions about the ethics of using weather modification for military purposes.
It's a big question.
Yeah.
It's a big question, for sure.
It is.
It's just wild to think about, that this actually happened.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
But we've moved on from this being like a secret military thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's not like that anymore.
No, not at all. Today, cloud seeding, it's mainly used for good things like dealing with droughts, increasing water resources. Sometimes they even use it to make sure those ski resorts, have enough snow.
Okay, so it's gone from being a weapon to being like
a tool.
To help people.
Yeah, to help people.
And are these projects, are they big?
Oh, yeah. Some of them are huge. Right. Like, entire countries are using cloud seeding to try and get more rain.
Give me an example.
Okay, the United Arab Emirates, right?
Okay.
They're really on top of their rainfall and groundwater levels. And when things get dry, boom, they're launching these cloud seeding operations.
Wow.
Some reports say they've been able to increase rainfall by 10 to 35%.
Seriously.
Warmer.
In certain areas.
Yeah, in certain areas.
That's a lot of rain.
It is. It is.
Is there any risk to, like, changing the weather so drastically?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It all comes back to those concerns about, like, unintended consequences.
Right.
Weather patterns are incredibly complex. They're all connected.
Yeah.
So you might think you're doing something good in one place.
Yeah.
But then who knows what's going to happen somewhere else?
You create rain in one place, and then suddenly there's a drought somewhere else.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it's not just governments doing this anymore, right?
No, not at all.
We read about private companies
Yeah.
getting involved, like people making money from making it rain.
Yeah, like there's actual businesses now.
Really?
Yeah, like Weather Modification, Inc.
Huh.
Coyote Climate Modification Consultants.
Wow, okay.
They specialize in cloud seeding, other weather modification stuff.
So it's not just governments, it's private companies now,
Yeah, it's a free market, baby.
Okay, but is there anyone, like, controlling this?
That's a good question.
What if they're just trying to make money and they're not thinking about the consequences?
That's why we need clear rules,
right?
Regulations, you know?
Yeah.
Got to make sure this technology is used responsibly.
Yeah.
We don't want some, corporation manipulating the weather just to line their own pockets.
Right, but wasn't that the whole point of the Environmental Modification Convention?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was created to ban weather warfare.
It was, but like we talked about before, it's tough to enforce.
Right.
Especially when there's not a lot of transparency around these projects. What we need is more open discussion scientifically.
Okay.
And a way to, like, keep track of all this activity.
So you can make sure no one's using it for bad stuff.
Exactly.
It's kind of scary to think that something that was once like a top secret military operation is now being used by governments and companies all over the place.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about.
So we've gone from this top secret operation during the Vietnam War to now weather modification is being used in so many different ways.
Yeah, and it makes you think about our relationship with technology in general.
Right.
We have all this power to change things.
Yeah.
But are we really thinking about what could happen?
It feels like we're always like a step behind trying to figure out what the impact's going to be.
It's like we create something.
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh, wait, should we have done that?
Exactly. We're trying to catch up.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why it's so important to have these conversations like we're having right now.
Yeah.
Think about this stuff before
it's too late.
It gets out of control.
Yeah.
And that's what this whole deep dive has been about.
Exactly.
We want you, the listener, to think about this.
Yeah.
This technology is fascinating.
It is.
It can change the world.
In so many ways.
Yeah, so we've got to be careful. So as we wrap up this exploration of Operation Popeye and everything that came after, I want to leave you with one last thought.
Okay, sure.
As climate change gets worse and things heat up.
Literally.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Are we going to be tempted to weaponize the weather again?
Oh, that's a great question.
Or are we going to use this technology the right way?
For good.
Yeah, for the benefit of everybody.
Yeah, it's a choice we have to make.
It is a choice.
It is.
And it's not an easy one.
Not at all.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Operation Popeye.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We hope you found it insightful.
And thought-provoking.
Definitely thought-provoking.
For sure.
Thanks for listening.